doing gardening for newcomers, pretty much. This is kind of a longer class, but we're trying to address some of this stuff first, and then we'll kind of do questions at the end. We will be talking about questions. I don't want to answer many as we get through stuff. My name is Mackenzie. This is Lisa. She's the owner of this place. I'm her daughter. Kind of how she voted today. I'm going to run down and get the class email sign up. We have a couple of handouts we're going to do by the end of the day or tomorrow that we'll transfer to you guys. Part one of them will be starting for numerous blog posts, kind of overall. What we're going to talk about today is going to be in that article. Top native plants in the area, kind of firewise plants, and a lot of kind of new people and cars want that list. Helpful. And then the other one is our planting guide. I always try to get out of anyone new. Kind of how to do best practices for planting here. It also has a watering guide on it. So kind of watering is a big struggle. We will go over watering. But I'm going to give you a planting guide, watering guide for that. If you're part of our membership, it's not the same thing. You guys kind of specifically on this list if you want to see it. I want to run and get that. Here's Ethan. Good morning, everybody. So yeah, this is our newcomer or new area. Or maybe you finally have time to get out gardening in your yard. So this kind of is designed to get the basics. Okay, I've been gardening a long time. I still make mistakes. I still kill things periodically. So you're never going to be a scientist. It's a learning process. And every plant is a learning process. It has different environments, different things get wrong as well. So, are most of you fairly new to the area? You come from other. He was probably warmer climate, sometimes you might get one of the big boats, less people who, they get like 2 seasons of summer. And this is really nice because you have a longer season. But so knowing your zone, zone is the USDA, is what the government puts out that decides how cold you are, if you're phosphate, how warm you get in the winter time. So we used to be 6A and 6B. They actually just re-changed them. I could move us up to like a 7D8. So we're actually getting warmer, starting to be a little bit warmer now than we used to be. We still get frost in the winter time. And we still get those every once in a while, those 100-day or some temperatures. So we have a very wide zone. And then you're also within your own home, you can have microclimates. So on the southwest side, you've got really hot wall. So you can probably throw in some zone 8 plants, salvias, cannas, things like that, and they'll be happy with it. If you're in Green Creek and you've got a north side, don't put those in. Go for things that like the cold. So knowing where your house is situated, which way your house faces, is really important about where you want to put plants. So the lower the number, so Flagstaff, I think is like 3, 4, 4, 5, somewhere in there. Phoenix is a 9, 10. So obviously a lot warmer. They don't get to freeze temperatures until they're kind of easier. So, yeah, 70, 8. 70 is Prescott, 8 kind of like maybe yeah. Prescott Valley, 78. And again, what side of the house are you talking about? Is the hot side, is the north side? Because knowing that makes a difference. The main thing to really remember, if you're coming from warmer climates, Phoenix, if you're coming from California, the southeastern part of the state, we get freezing temperatures here in the winter. It will freeze. It's really tough. Last winter we had a pretty mild winter. I would say it's probably one of the most mild ones I've experienced. a long time. It's a very long time. Again, you know, it happens. When we get the big heavy snows, it's there for a while, it's in the north side of the house. So I think it's really important to know, keep in mind your zone, keep in mind where around your house you're wanting to put them. North side, south side, west side, east side. So that makes a difference on the type of plants you can put into those areas. I think so, that's covered. You're going to be anywhere from 60 to 78. 67. I would say 78. I noticed this last year, past couple of years, it's just really warm. Can't grow too much. 70 to 8. Okay. We agree. Okay. So, a lot of people come from the smaller places want to grow veggies wherever they want. Can't do that here. Let's forget it here. So, our prostate, the one coming up is around October, November, kind of like all week. October 31st is kind of that first, you know, to be accurate and that. First heavy frost. First heavy frost. Get some light frost before that. Be prepared by the end of October. That means we kind of see once we start getting below 40s or so, that's when things start to leaves, things start going dormant, changing the colors will happen around that, the trees and stuff. So October 31st is kind of that. That's when you start thinking about bringing in any houseplants that are outside, any plants that are annuals that you want to keep alive through the winter, bring them inside or put them in your garage, something like that. Okay. You can still do your fall veggies, your fall flowers, pansies, violas, snapdragons. They all love that cold. They'll do just fine in it. But if your summer, your vinca, your pinta, geranium, stuff like that, you're gonna start protecting. Okay. Next frost day is kind of Mother's Day. That's kind of when we stop getting harsh frost. Sometimes it's later, sometimes we get them a lot earlier. So around Mother's Day, when you start planting outside your summer flowers without losing them to the cold. Okay, so you can definitely start vegetables and things inside. Keep them out during the day. But until Mother's Day weekend, you want to try and bring them in at night. Because we did have a late freeze this year that took out a lot of people's stuff because we had that early warm. Everything started to die and come out. We froze and kind of reset everything. So it tricked a lot of people during that late frost that we got. So those are kind of your frost days.
So for gardening, if you're into the gardening, frost colors, it helps. It definitely helps. It's not going to help all through the winter, but it takes the edge off the season.
She asked about frost covers. That frost cloth, that white frost cloth. You can do it a lot on your fruit trees when they're blooming in the spring. It helps protect them so you don't lose your fruit. Doesn't really save veggies, but it saves that stuff that's bordered from when they're blossoming in those between seasons. Okay. It's not a great year-round or all winter thing.
So we do have kind of a dual veggie season here, which is kind of nice. So we're moving into, we're getting to the end of the summer veggies, which are your tomatoes. I mean, we've still got another month. We delay on that. But if you're thinking about you want to do more year-round gardening, September, October, we start bringing in kale, lettuces, cabbages, broccoli, cauliflower. Those are all things you can plant in the fall, and you can get a really nice little season out of fall veggies there, which is wonderful, such as the lettuce, salad eaters, that kind of stuff. Also early in the spring, so in March, you can also do your lettuces, your kale, your cabbage, your broccoli, your cauliflower. So you kind of get a double season out of the cool season vegetables. Your warm season veggies, I always tell people, unless you've got a greenhouse or hoop houses, or you just really love taking your veggies in and out, just wait till after Mother's Day. Because you still have plenty of seasons left to grow and produce, and you don't have the stress of worrying, is it going to frost tonight? I have to get my plants in. It just stays raise you, but you know, if that's your thing and you want to start inside, do this back and forth, I think go for it. So we still have a long enough season that if you wait till after another day, you'll plenty of time.
Amazing how bad the cicadas are.
Yeah.
It's good, that humming noise you hear. So yeah, that's kind of crop date, general crop date. Let's go to planting dates before water. Water will take up. So your planting dates, people are always wondering, when is the best time to plant? Can we plant year round? Stuff like that. You can plant year round here. It just depends how hard you want to make it on yourself. So the best time for planting is in between seasons. So kind of March, April is great. Okay, this is what's going to bother me. It's hot. And then September, October is actually a really great time to do planting stuff. Okay, so when we're like heating and cooling, kind of your ground's kind of softer, so you're not running out in the middle of the day dying from heat. Those are your best planting times. You can still plant in the summer. It's not going to do any harm. You're just watering more. So things are a little bit more stressed out with the heat. So you have to overcompensate with some water. So that's why it's harder in the summer, but it's not. You can still plant, do just fine. That's when you're going to find the most stuff around town. It's when we carry almost everything. Is that May, June time? After that, it gets harder to find things. So I always say plant when you want it and you see something you like. Plant it. Winter is still fine to plant. You just can't dig in the soil. So our soil only freezes about a foot down here. It doesn't. It doesn't freeze harsh, not like you would in like Ohio. No, so you can dig a hole. You can still plant here in the winter because you just don't freeze. The roots don't freeze, which is nice. Your plants don't freak out much, but you still have all that.
Yeah, so fall, we're moving into beautiful time to plant because the soils are still warm. You can plant those fruit trees, deciduous trees, perennials, things like that, and they'll have time to root out before those cold winters. So it's a really good time to plant. The little bit negative side is that a lot of nurseries are going, hey, winter's coming, we need to reduce our inventory. So you may not have every desirable plant that you want this time of year that you can find maybe in March or April. But if you can find what you want, it's still a really good time to plant. It's a great time to get some perennials in, get them in before the cold really starts coming on in November, because then they're rooted out. And even though they may go dormant, they're going to go to sleep for the winter, those roots will be active. And they'll have time to root out, and they'll be stronger going through the winter time. So we're moving into a wonderful time to plant. Like Peasy said, you can't plant year round. I wouldn't plant a perennial in January. Right. When I plant a fruit tree, you betcha. When I plant a pine, sure, cedar, great. Even some of the deciduous trees, your maples, and those kinds of things, sure, you can plant. And it'll wake up happy in its new home and go, oh, I'm in a new home. It's fine. But I always just think the smaller the root ball, the more time it needs to acclimate before winter comes.
Okay. That will lead us into watering. Question. Okay, watering. So we'll talk about watering now. Planting things now, and we'll talk about winter watering. A lot of people last year to kill a lot of things. Have been dry. We have really not seen any moisture for like a year and a half, 2 years. And that's a big difference. So a little bit of snow is not what we call moisture here. That's not enough. That basically hydrates your soil. It doesn't actually hydrate your plant. So for right now, because we're coming up into a weird season where you're thinking about changing your watering, but we're not quite there yet. Newly planted stuff, mostly shrubs and perennials, you're going to water 2 to 3 times a week. Okay? We're always going to tell you not to water every day or every other day. A lot of people have that system. If it works for you, great. We like deep waterings here and then dry out time. So I don't know if you noticed, we got a lot of clay. Okay? Either rock or clay, but most people have clay. That just holds so much moisture. I mean, the tops look dry, your top pots, the top of our soil looks dry. The root base is still super wet. So it just doesn't dry out as fast as you would think in this arid climate. So dry out time. we always like to deep soak, let it dry out. So for your shrubs and trees, things 5 gallons and below, 2 to 3 times a week, let it dry out. And that's, so this is kind of a 2 gallon. If I were to plant this, I would water it 2 gallons 3 times a week. Okay, for the season we're in. Okay, so if you plant 1 gallon, 1 gallon 3 times a week. So the gallon size is kind of how much you want to water. Very cool question. So she's asking if you have a drip, how long would you run the drip? That's kind of a tough question because it depends on what emitter you've got on it or what gallon size you've got on it. So normally I say half an hour or so. But I know a lot of people have trees, shrubs, and perennials all in one line. That is a really big challenge to try to figure out. It's not easy. You just gotta play around with it. So tree like if it's established stuff, I run my irrigation. I have everything on one line. I run it for an hour, hour and a half. And I put 2 emitters, 2 lines to my, or 3 lines to my shrubs. I put 2 emitters to my trees. I run for any solution. For flowers and stuff, usually it's half an hour. So I mean, and you gotta test. I tell people that I would say at least an hour because you got to remember these are drip. So run at least an hour. Then I like to go out with a screwdriver, skewer, something where I can poke in the soil. If I go to poke in that soil and it's only wet 2 inches down, say it's a shrub or a tree, that's not enough moisture. You've got to run that system longer. You want that soil 4 to 5 inches down, it should be moist. If it's not moist 4 to 5 inches down, you have not run your system long enough. The other trick is, especially if you're learning a new irrigation system, go out before you think that system's supposed to run again. Go out and do the same thing. Don't poke in that soil. If it's really wet, still like 2 inches down, 3 inches down, it's still really wet. You can go 2 to 3 more days and bring more water. If you go to test it and you need a sledgehammer to get your screwdriver in there, by golly, you better be watering it because it needs it. The other thing with drip irrigation, as landscapes mature, or say you move into a new home that has existing irrigation systems, it doesn't do any good if you've got a big, beautiful maple tree and your roots are right next to the trunk. It's not doing that tree any good at all because its feeder roots are way out here. So you need to always think, do I need to extend my drip line and probably add emitters as that tree matures? Because it's going to be different than a little 5-gallon tree that you stuck in as opposed to one that's been there 10 years or so. It's big and tall and wide. So always, I love drip systems and I hate drip systems. They can save you a lot of time, but they can give you a lot of grease too. The other thing of your drip system, either you need to go out and walk it, and check it while it's running, or have your landscaper go out and actually check it while it's running, because you'll either have a leak, you wouldn't believe how many leaks I got in my irrigation this season, or you'll have emitter head that's plugged and no water coming down, or a lot of times critters get into there and chew the lines, water is going whoosh. So you need to really two or three times doing. You can waste a lot of water, which is expensive here if you're not paying attention to it. And also, you can kill a lot of things if you're not paying attention because that drip's not coming on. There's no water coming out. Yeah. Our water has that calcium in it, so it can clog up those irrigation heads within a couple seasons. So it's just good to keep an eye on them as you walk it.
The other thing I would say, if you have a single system, so you've got perennial trees, shrubs, all of the same system, and you're planting something new, you may, especially if it's a tree, you may need to hand water that for the first season to really get it established. So those are things to really think about as you're adding new plants into your yard and taking care of your existing yard. Irrigation systems, like I said, they're a blessing and a curse. So just be aware of that as you're watering. I can tell you, watering every day on trees and shrubs, you don't need to do that. There's a better way to water. We do have a watering guide, and we can show you guys all that. Yes.
Four existing trees, they're massive. My mom planted them. They're very, very mature at this point. And then I just planted four fruit trees. So how long necessarily does it take for them to get mature, get acclimated? That way I can extend my irrigation to them.
Sure. So your big established trees, they probably don't need water more than maybe twice a month, as long as you're getting a good watering when you water. Your new stuff, say if you plant it now, it's probably going to want twice a week watering.
It's been there for
It's still
Like it's
probably
like a year. Season's kind of like a year almost since you planted it. Especially where you're at in May. You'll probably have to do that watering until next summer. And then after that, you can maybe cut back. But it's gonna take a while for each of the mature tree watering. Depending on what you have.
So your new stuff, we say new first season. You're probably going to water at least twice a week. And you do that on new stuff at the end of November. Then you have winter watering. So December, January, February, March, and your winter watering months. A lot of people go, oh, my landscaper said, shut down my system. I don't need to water. Well, that might work in the Midwest, California. It does not work here. We are very, very dry in our winter. A lot of times very dry. And our, especially newer trees and shrubs, definitely need moisture to their root ball. They don't get moisture to the root ball, which is still active. The top of the tree might be dormant, it might be sleeping, but the root ball is still active. It needs hydration, not nearly as much. We usually say you winter water 2 times per month.
Per month.
Per month. 2 times per month. December, January, February, March. April is the start of the spring season, and that's where you go back to your normal watering. Established stuff is usually once a week. If it's fairly new, you're probably doing it a couple times a week. Spring is a little weird because it's still cool. A lot of times if the tree is still dormant, doesn't have its leaves on yet, it's not pulling a lot of moisture up. So we just need to be careful not to overwater in the spring because it's the roots are keeping the moisture, but there's nowhere for that to go up. It doesn't have a lot of leaves that have to support. So you don't want to overwater and get root rot. You get root rot, you get diseases, a lot of fungal issues show up in the spring because people are overwatering in the spring. Does that make sense?
So a lot of things didn't come out this spring because no one watered, and then things just got stressed. So they lost a lot of the root structure, died back, and then when that last freeze hit, it just killed the tree. You'll know like things started to bud, and with the freeze, and it killed that tree off. I doubt they. So it's just hard here. The reason we also like deep watering, just so you guys know, there's a reason for it. We want to train roots to fend for themselves. So if you're watering things every day, the root structure says, I don't need to go anywhere. I'm just going to stay right here, not root myself out. And then when we get a strong wind, get a snow, it knocks your tree over and you lost your tree. Okay, so if you slow water it, deep water it, it trains the roots to kind of start going sideways, reaching for a new water source. So it anchors itself in and stays where it's at. Okay, it also keeps the roots from staying shallow. If you deep water, because if they shallow roots, they're going to stay near the surface because that's where the water is. They're not going to want to go down. Deep water, they go down, anchor, and then you don't see the roots. They're not going to uplift your brick wall or uplift your driveway, and they'll be fine. Okay, so that's kind of why we want to deep water and why you want to move your drip system out to where the tree line ends. Okay, so that's kind of the helps. Just you'll notice trees are sideways here. That wind knocks them sideways. As soon as they start growing sideways, they're going to stay like that forever until they eventually fall over. Okay.
So would you recommend turning off the drip system in those winter months and hand water?
Kind of depends how you want to do it. If you have an underground system, you can take a warm day, throw it on, and then kind of turn it off again. I don't flush my line, and my line's just fine, but I bury. If you have an above ground system, probably want to hand water because you don't want that to freeze. But we do have some warm days in winter months that you can run a system. And I just like that because I don't want to go water. So
Yeah, if your valves are in the ground, you can throw some insulation in that box or a bag of mulch or something over the top of it. I've done that for 20-some years in my house. I've never had it freeze. But if your system is above ground or if you have a black backflow preventer, make sure you cover that. A lot of landscapers will tell you to shut down your system. If you want to do that, that's fine. Suppose there's water, your landscape still needs some water. You can't just ignore it in the time.
okay. Yes. Okay. Oh yeah, I want to mention that. So she has morning or night watering. We prefer morning watering here. So before that heat comes, kind of 5 to 8, whatever, I would morning water. If you evening water here, it doesn't dry out. It leads to fungal problems, bacterial problems. They get your, especially your roses and stuff. It just creates a lot of problems. The morning water, let it evaporate throughout the day on top, and then it will do just fine. You can even, I've had this kind of myth, you can day water here. I mean, if you're like, I forgot to water, it's 1 o'clock, it's hot, can I water? Most people think they'll burn their plants. We're not hot enough for that here. You can go and water midday, and it's not going to burn anything. It's just going to evaporate faster. But you can still, if you miss a day of watering, you can still water midday.
It looks like it needs water.
It's more. You're not going to burn anything. You're not going to burn roots. In pots, you can still water pots. A lot of people ask if the heat will heat up that pot and burn stuff. It won't. If you have a good pot, it's not going to do that. Ceramic, big glazed pot, you'll do just fine. So, but morning watering is different. Okay. We can have another class. Like that's kind of your basics.
We do a whole house of watering at some point, but that's a good overview.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna get into spoils and kind of planting because it is our ground is dead here. New house built, old house built. They scraped off the good dirt we had, the only dirt we had, and replaced it with just nothing. Okay, so our soil is dead. You gotta help it along here, constantly. You can't just do it once and then leave it alone and your soil is good forever. Not gonna happen here. We are very alkaline. Whoever tested the soil, we are almost 8, 7.5, 8. Okay, if you can get it below that at any point, kudos to you. It's almost impossible. Okay, our water, it has that salt in it. And we have to water so much, it almost keeps you alkalinely up here. But our plants are kind of used to that. They kind of get acclimated to that. But if you can bring it down with some stuff, it just helps everything in your yard. Okay, so fertilizer. The time is coming up to fertilize. So this is our all-purpose plant food. It can go into anything and everything. Okay, doesn't matter what it is. It's all natural. So it does have bone meal and blood meal. So that's why it can't be organic. It is all natural. So it can go in your fruits and your veggies and stuff like that. It's granular. You don't have to mix it in water first. You just throw it on the ground. It will go down between your leaf fabric, rocks, stuff like so. You don't have to dig and bury it down. I'm all for easy gardening. I don't want to do a lot of work in the heat. I just throw it down on top, water it in, and then the elements will go from there. It goes, you do it, it lasts for 3 to 4 months. Slow release. So I don't like the 10-10-10s. I don't like the liquids because they just leave super fast. So they're gone within like a month. So your plant can't take up as much as it wants. And then they kind of just, they can get into your well water. You can get down into creeks. They can just leave really fast. I don't like it myself. That's why we created this for the area. We made this recipe because we just know our area. So you do this 3 to 4 times a year. The next one is Halloween. I go by holidays, so I don't have to forget. Halloween's your next feeding cycle. Okay, you want to feed things before they kind of go dormant because that gives them energy to get through the winter. So that's why fall feeding super important. I would say it's almost number one feeding.
I would say for your evergreens, your pines, your spruce, things like that, fall is a really important time to feed because they're going to start setting their candle growth for the next year from early spring. If they don't have enough energy in their roots, you're not going to get new growth, good growth. Yes.
I mean, not in terms of frequency, but in terms of amount. I'm built on fill, so I know there's nothing.
Yeah, underneath.
So I, like
Yeah.
a tree, I'm like throwing out 2, 3 cups of that.
So the question was, can you overfeed? And I would say it depends on the product. So like for this, because it is a slow release food, it's not going to dump a lot of nitrogen into the soil all at once. It just slowly releases it. So your odds of over fertilizing this would be very, very, very small. If you were using something like a 15, 16, 10, something that's not slow release, it's just dumping it, yes, you could first, especially when we're heading into our holidays. That's why, I know there's probably less expensive fertilizers out there. And I know it's very tempting to buy those when you see them at these big stores. And you're like, ooh, that's a good price. But think about how the plant needs to use that food. Because to me, you're wasting your money. If you spend money on a product, the tree really can't, shrub, brush, pull up over a longer period of time. If it's just going to wash out right away, you're basically flushing money down the front, right? Because the tree is not staying in the soil long enough for your landscape to use it. The other thing with this, it also has soil sulfur and iron in it. So it is going to help with that alkalinity as well. So it can help bring that down and give us a more average state where we want to be. And because our soils are alkaline and our water is alkaline. We're built on volcanic areas. Yes, sir.
How do you propagate your fertilizer?
How do we
propagate it around the plants and trees?
I could spread it out. I have to say I'm not real.
We don't really measure, and we just kind of chuck it around where the tree line is. That's where you want to put it.
The trick is, yeah.
No, it tells you the bag kind of helps. It's like 2 cups per inch of trunk diameter, 2 cups per 3 foot of shrub height. It kind of tells you, but because you can't really burn with it, I tend to be more generous with it. But
The main
it has
thing
instructions.
is get it out where the roots are, so not right against the trunk. Try to get it as far out as you can get it. Yes. So almost always, so you know where the branches end. So your feeder roots are just inside where the branches end. So the more food you can kind of get out in that wider area, the better off you are, as opposed right up against the trunk. I know a lot of you are saying, but I have weed fabric, I have gravel. It's okay. You can spread this out, kind of water it in, and it'll start moving down.
So I have a probably 30-year-old pine tree at my house. Very strong. So should I just extend that to?
You probably don't even need a tree well already.
I really don't. I really don't. But just to
If
keep
you want
it
to, yeah.
But it's a
So
right.
So you can dig it in a little bit or throw it in that well and water it in. That's partially why you want to water it in, is kind of keep things out of it. Dogs.
And you can go leave the bag out where they
Put it in your garage.
I know from experience.
That should help. Let me just finish the dates to use this before we forget. So, Halloween, New Year's, Easter, right? And 4th of July. Okay? Halloween and New Year's are kind of your most important. Things go to sleep and then things wake up. They take a lot of nutrients when they wake up, so that Easter feeding is kind of more important because they're going to use a lot of energy. They need help. Okay? So that's kind of your feeding time.
You can do it 4 times a year. Doing good.
Yeah,
3 times a year.
we'll take it.
If you have big natives, big Arizona cypress, big pinyon pine, ponderosa, typically, really, if you're going to feed them at all, you just do it 1 time a year, and this is the time to do it. Not your big native stuff, not one you planted, but native in your yard. What kind of question are you?
Okay, you get 1 season to grow your evergreens in the spring. Once it gets that growth through the year, it's done. You want to give it the best chance to get as much growth as you can in the spring. This is our fruit and vegetable fertilizer. This is a 6447. It has 7% calcium. So if you have those 4 fruit trees, and you do more fruit trees than you do anything else, you probably want this. This is still good for anything and everything. This is organic, but that calcium here helps fruit get bigger, helps from that end rot that it gets, that cracking on the fruit, kind of helps give more evenness to it. Because we have to water and things dry out so much that fruit just can get just deformed. Tomatoes get that blossom end rot. If you can kind of keep up on the fruit and vegetable food, it will help with your setting your fruit a little bit better. Okay, so still the same stuff, not that bone meal or blood meal, but it has that extra calcium. That's why we created this product for people who have a lot of fruit trees or vegetables, things like that. So it works the same way. It has instructions and all that stuff. Okay. All right. All right. Okay, planting stuff. We like premium mulch. Our soil doesn't have much to it. Sometimes people don't even have native soil. They've got clumps of clay or they got big rocks. So when they go to plant something, they got no dirt to put back into it, and they got no dirt to kind of help your plant get acclimated. When you take a plant from its nice grown soil that has nutrients in it, you're chucking it around with no help, it's going to freak out, it's going to panic, and you'll just have more loss. If you can mix some premium mulch into it, it makes it happier. So you kind of do 1/4 to half a bag per plant, so per 5-gallon plant, 3 gallons. So something this size. Oh no. This size. This is a 5, this is a 3 gallon, okay? You do about half a bag to 1/4 of a bag per plant. Okay? You still want to mix it with your native soil. You don't want to just plant straight in this. This will burn the roots. It's very hot. So you're meant to mix with your native soil. All right. So you dig your dirt out, pour your mulch with that dirt you pulled out, mix it together, and then backfill over your plant. Okay. This helps the plant. It helps space out your soil. It's not compacting down. It does help with some moisture retention, but it's just meant to like aerate your soil. So you do that.
We do have a really good planting guide. If you can get it on our website, we also have copies, but it tells you how to use the mulch. It also gives you an idea on how you want that hole done. So a lot of people have thought that, oh, I have to dig a really deep hole. No,
Can't do that here.
you need a nice wide hole, but it only needs to be about the bucket. So if I find this 1 gallon, I'm probably going to have a year to dig my hole. But I would want it wide. I want at least 2 to 2.5 times the width of the bucket. So width-wise here is really important because our soils are very heavy. So we need to give those roots a good start. And the roots are going to want to go this way, not this way so much. This way.
Our tap roots go sideways. I'm never going to tap roots that go down. Okay, it goes down to here and then goes sideways.
Make sure nice like that.
Yeah.
That's where mixing the mulch is really important. I also like to, especially if I'm planting trees, once I get it all planted and tamped down, I will go back through and put like an inch or so layer of mulch on top of that planting area because it does help keep the roots cooler. It helps maintain moisture and it keeps the weeds from wanting to pop up. So there's a lot of benefit to that. The other great time I like to use mulch is about November or so. I'll go through and put a layer of mulch around my perennials, around my shrubs, and around my trees. Because what that is doing, again, is kind of like feeding the soil. we're getting organic matter back into the soil. Because we do have such rough soil here, we need to always kind of think about feeding that soil again. So doing a layer of mulch in the fall is terrific.
Question on the mulch. Do you take out the old mulch?
I don't, because usually there's not a lot left by the time. So if you take out the whole mulch, they're usually what I find by the end of the season, it's either kind of washed away or it's broken down. So I don't. You do need to be careful, like on a fruit tree. You don't want a lot of mulch up around the trunk of the tree. You want it further out, not up against the trunk. We want to leave that trunk of the tree where it's in the soil. You want to leave that space fairly open. That's where it's pulling in oxygen, that kind of stuff. And you create problems if you put a lot of soil, bark really close up against the trunk. So be careful of that.
Can I use the pots? Well, some people get confused. This is like our compost. So Midwesterners, they can see mulch, they're like, it's a top dressing. No, it's meant to be in the ground. It's compost, not pots. You need a specific potting soil for pots. Okay, that's all you need for pots around here. You don't need to mix and match. That's just for the ground, or I would say just the ground, not even raised beds, just the ground. You can do raised beds, but that's a whole other class. Yeah.
Do you use that around your rose bushes?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes. So our question was, do I use it around rose bushes? I will wait on my roses. I typically wait till the end of November, December before I put it out. I'm probably the reason why I put it later in. I usually wait till it's a little cooler.
Yeah. The other thing you want to use when you're planting your stuff is gypsum. I'm not saying this is foolproof, but it does help break up your soil. So a lot of times people will dig their hole, they do everything right, but it still compacts down and sits in the bathtub of clay. Because our clay is a cement here. Okay? Or you hit a boulder, things don't drain. This will help break through clay layers. It'll help create some drainage for you. So I always check this at the bottom of the hole. I don't really mix it in. Right? It just helps break up our soil here. Okay? So that's something important. I'd rather just dig the hole a little bit bigger and create some space, but it just helps. Here.
So she brings up a good point, and this is something that's going to mention when we're talking about planting. If you're putting in a new tree or a new shrub, and you haven't really planted in that specific area, I always do recommend you do a perk test or see how that hole drains. So you're going to dig it about halfway, pour water in there. You want that water to drain out of there in at least 6 to 8 hours. If you go back next morning and you're water, you know, spend the time and energy and the money putting in a big tree. Check your soil. Make sure that's a good spot, because we do have layers of big boulders, and you don't know that until you start digging in there. So I always, people think, well, I don't need to, it's fine. But it also tells you how fast your soil drains. So parts of Prescott Valley, you probably don't have boulders, but you got clay like no other. And if you go dig that hole and you pour that water in there, and like 12 hours later, you still have water in there, you're going to know, I'm going to have to be really careful watering this plant, or I'm going to build it up on a slight mound, so I have a little more forgiveness for those roots, especially if we get monsoons again. It's not going to pool down in here. It's going to anyway, so it's really, really important when you're digging those holes that you amend your soils, but that you also know how that hole is going to drain, because that makes a huge difference for your tree. Really does.
Yeah. The last thing kind of within this, and we can kind of go over some questions and multiple times to do introduce all of these. So if you're like over the years, things have, if people have lawns, your lawn's kind of not doing great, or you have like a flower bed that's just not, hasn't produced as much as it wanted to in the past, doesn't look as good. I like humic, soil activator is the other name for it. It's not a fertilizer. So it's not going to replace your fertilizer, but it feeds your soil. It helps bring back to life your mycorrhizal colonies. Your earthworms love this. So in lawns, when it's got a short little root system, this brings the soil back to life. So lawns want to reroot. They want to send out more roots. Like, oh, this soil's alive. Okay, I'll root more. I'll do better for you. It just brings soil back to life a little easier. And you can use it on anything. It's not going to get into your fruit, your vegetables, things like that. It's just to bring your soil back to life and keep it going. So I like to do this once a year. I don't need to do it all the time, every month or so. I just do it once a year to kind of refresh, revamp, and then keep it going from there.
If you have trees that are stressed, if you have like the old ponderosa pines that maybe have some bark beetle damage, pinions that are kind of stressed, this product is amazing, keeping your tree healthy. Like I said, once a year, perfect, use it. But you will see a difference because it actually helps your fertilizers work better. So the two in conjunction really work nicely. But for things that are stressed, I love doing it. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah. We don't sell your products just to sell your products here because I want to make money. I sell your products because you need it here. And we only sell you what you need. So this might seem like a lot, but you waste so much energy trying to just plant more plants and stuff. This just keeps things going. Yeah, it kind of works like the fertilizer. You just throw it on top. You can dig it in if you want, like an inch, or just throw it on top, water it. Yeah, I like easy gardening.
It's not going to burn.
Yeah, it doesn't burn. It's not a it doesn't burn. So check as much as you want down. Be generous, or be stingy however you want. All right, we'll kind of go into some questions for you guys, and then if you don't have questions, we'll go over some other products. But you need questions?
I have purple flowers and blanket flowers. And they're great. They spread like crazy. What would be the best time to combine and transplant? Fall.
So especially as you have a lot of great flowers, cone flowers, blanket flower, that are doing really well. He wants to know when he would divide those to move them to different places through the yard. Typically, you want to do it when they've gone dormant. Okay, so you could wait till November, December, even January, where it's really some beautiful days. And like I said, we can dig in the soil. The best time to do it is when they're dormant, so they go to sleep. So it's less stressful to them. Product. All right. This is our root and grow. This is for anything you're transplanting or planting or anything that's stressed. So this helps roots want to grow. They're getting invites mycorrhizal colonies in, all that good stuff. So anytime you're doing transplanting and using this product, this is concentrated. You're going to mix it up in a water bucket and make it.
Root and grow. It's called root and grow. It's a 2-2-1, so it's great for houseplants if you want. I just use it on anything new. I like it in my pots for myself because I don't want to do a bunch of fertilizer in my pots, which you can. Especially this time of year when things are looking kind of heat stressed and gross. I throw a little bit of this down. It just staves off that stress. It's a fermented tea, so it's really dark liquid chocolate.
Looks kind of gross.
Yeah, mix it in water, pour it around. I do it after my watering cycle's gone through. I throw it on top, so that way it doesn't go in the soil. Your plant actually picks it up.
Did you say that was for transplanting?
Transplanting or
Yeah,
any
new
new
plants.
plantings, or if you have something that just looks really stressed, it's a great product because it encourages new root formation.
On the old school, it used to be a B12.
Yeah.
So this is much better than B12 was not bad.
Yeah.
Synthetic product. This is all organic. Really nice product.
We made it for
Looks a little funky, but it's a great product.
I mean, you can drink it if you want, but that's safe.
So,
On the back of the sorry. On the express plant, which is better. And
So her question was on the humic. If I were something with stress, would you rather use the humic or the root grow? And then the question was on the humic, how you apply it. So I think it depends on if I had a rose that was stressed or pretty or something smaller, I would definitely use or a newly planted thing that's kind of struggling.
Sorry, she said room grow. If things are stressed or anything you choose, always do room grow first. Stuff like
I
that.
say for younger or smaller stuff. If it's a big tree, it's a big ponderosa, big canyon, established, I would use the gimmick. And the quantity, the way you use the gimmick, I follow the measurements that are on the package for the all-purpose food. I just do the same exact thing. And if you're going to use both, I would say use the humic first, because it's feeding the soil. Then use the all-purpose food or the tree and fruit food, use that a couple weeks later. It'll make it a little more
Kind of a mutation, like 1 out of 3 Petunia. Small leaves, all encapsulated in a stem, or a butterfly bush, 1 out of 50. I mean, different stuff of plants. A rose is doing the same thing. Struggling, never still anything from the season. Everything is miniature in size. What could that be?
So she's having,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
it's like stunted growth or weird growth, and it's not just on one plant, it's on multiple plants.
Right.
So it could be a few different things, and that's what I like to see a sample of it or a picture. Because it could be a few different things. It could be watering, it could be fertilizing, it could be a fungal issue. So there's a fungus around here called witch's broom that just makes things like they don't really leaf out all the way, they just do little tufts here and there.
It's bad this year, which is really
I
bad.
didn't fit that this year. Why this year? The heat of the warm winter made a difference. I'm not sure. But there's things we can do to treat that. But we love it when people come in with clippings or samples, good pictures, and go, this is what's happening. Because it's a lot easier to diagnose when we have it in front of us.
Well, I did bring samples in.
Okay.
Smoke tree.
Yeah.
One out of 3 smoke trees. And then perhaps water, overwatering, because initially the landscaper, our house, the landscaper said this contained water. I don't think that was a good
Especially for a
idea.
smoke tree.
Well, yes, and so not knowing, right, we had to educate, we did that, now we brought that back.
So sometimes it's like when you go to the doctor and you go, this hurts, and the doctor goes, well, we got this, and this. So sometimes it takes it. Yeah.
Now put a little bit newer down, you gently.
So sometimes it takes a few things till we get it hit on the head just right. And some things, especially things with witch's broom and some of the fungal issues, they're going to have it for the season. And then they wake up next year and they're happy as can be. So sometimes it's just we need some time to really go through and see what's going on. Our goal here is to help you be successful because people are getting try. So it's diseases, things like it's hard. We really do our best to get it correct and diagnose it. And sometimes we got to try this before you try this. Normally we get it. We eventually usually get it. Sometimes it just takes the season to go through it and then see how things wake up next season, especially your trees.
Sometimes you'll see like a row of hedges or a row of trees and 1 or 2 isn't doing good or it's smaller, it's half the size. Our holes here, a foot apart, are different holes. Every hole is a different hole. You'll be amazed they're not the same holes. One could be there's a rock underneath it, or that soil is too hard for that root structure, that hole to go anywhere. And that has its own other issues. But happens a lot here. Again, it's either a watering thing, the hole itself, or a fungal issue usually. And we can see, we can help diagnose, but don't be surprised here if plants are 2 feet apart. Same plant, same watering, same sun, and one's doing great, one's not. Happens a lot here.
I knew the answer to that would be rich.
Right. So rich. But yeah, happens a lot. Other
I do my garden in pots or in beds.
100%.
Yeah.
Do I change the soil or?
Good question. So she does a lot of her gardening stuff in pots, and then we do too, actually, a lot of stuff in pots. And you'll notice that she has to change the soil out. What do you do with that? And you'll know, like, pots lose soil every year. It's amazing what happens to it. You don't really need to replace it, dig it out, or replace it. I would say just refresh it. Throw some new potting soil on top. You can take out the first foot or so, put new potting soil in. I wouldn't just go disturb plants because they're set in their home, but throw some stuff on top. They'll make it real happy.
Just throw it on top, don't mix it in.
You can if you want. You can. I would like break up the top, but then just throw it on top. When you water it in, all the good stuff goes down to it. And stuff.
I think the only exception to that I would have is if you're growing tomatoes in containers. Just because tomatoes are like a disease virus environment, I always dump my soil and put fresh soil in for my tomatoes. Probably my peppers too. Just because there's, like I said, there's a lot of fungal things that can hang out in that soil. Tomatoes are just so sensitive to fungus and bacteria. So I like to start fresh soil. But if it's a rose, annual, yeah, just throw some fresh soil on top.
How are you? Yep, 5 minutes. We're right on time. Oh, yeah, good point. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'm the darkness.
This is the season, a little late in the season.
So this
So, weeds. We're talking about how to control weeds, how to deal with weeds, because they're rough here.
So this is a pre-emergent. So this is a granular, you spread out. It's not going to kill anything that is already up above ground and growing. It only inhibits seed from being able to germinate. So this product, if you have foxtails, if you have goat heads, things like that, this is amazing. This will cut your work time down incredibly. Because almost all of our weeds come back from seed here. Very, very few are coming back from the root structure. Using this twice a year, I always say use it in the J month. So, which January, use it at the end of January, because sometimes we get rains in February, so spring tends to be our little bit better season. And we get cool season weeds. So foxtail is a cool season weed. A lot of your grasses are cool season weeds. This will prevent them from even germinating. And so you don't have that issue. You got to be out there pulling them. Because with weeds, once that seed head comes up and that seed head drops, you've got to prevent that seed from being able to germinate. It's never going to prevent the problem. It's always ongoing. Second time is July. Into June. For July, there again prevents you get those warm season weeds, goat head, horehound, things like that. Those are warm season weeds. So they germinate later when it's warm. So if you use this twice a year, use it at the end of January and the end of June, you prevent your cool season and your warm season weeds. It's not going to hurt your trees. It's not going to hurt your roses. It's not going to hurt your perennials. It only keeps the seed from germinating. It's not going to move into the soil and kill an existing plant. Now, if you're going to put wildflower seed out, that's different. Growing a lot is different. But for everything that's already up and existing, not going to harm. And it can cut down your workload.
It's not foolproof. It's not once a season and you're done. You have to keep up on it. So if you're starting from scratch, you haven't done anything. So don't expect it to work like don't have to pull weeds next year. No, it just cuts your workload in half. Keep up on it, it will die back.
Weed and grass stopper.
I think he had a question first. Your question?
If you sprinkle it on your blocks in your backyard,
Anywhere you want it.
maybe before rain, so rain will put it down.
Yes. Which is a really good point, because this has to be, for it to be effective, it needs to be moved into your soil. So putting it down before we get a rain or any kind of moisture, terrific. If you put it down and it's been 2 or 3 weeks and you haven't had any moisture, you will want to sprinkle it in, because you want it to move into the first few inches of the soil, because that's where all the seeds are hanging out. And it'll be very effective. So yes, it works on rock yards.
Will it work into the soil if you have that paper underneath the pot? Will it still be effective?
But it will, because you'll find, even with weed fabric, people have weeds that grow out. So yeah,
As long as you have that breathable fabric, if you have that one that doesn't do anything, that's old homes, that'll be an issue.
Is it pet friendly? How does it react with?
you're gonna, if I had pets, I would put it down and I would water it in right away. That's what it's doing.
Yeah. This milk I pulled out, I'm not getting 10 times for the last like 2 freaking weeks. That would be my best friend.
Yeah, I hope for next year.
So this is a preventative. Once you have them, once you have weeds, then you gotta move into killers.
So you can do Roundup. We don't like Roundup because I just don't want to kill myself and everything else, but it does the job. So we went moved to Decimate. Decimate is the product that's the harshest product without killing yourself, okay, or anything else. So it takes care of those harsh weeds, the woody weeds, along with your soft stuff.
It's a non-specific. So whenever you spray it on, it will kill. It does not translocate through the soil. It doesn't sterilize the soil. If you spray it on the plant or stand into the plant, into the root.
You don't want to, if you just mow down your weeds, it's not going to be very effective. It wants to be sprayed on leaves, on foliage, down. So,
How much do you really
instruction. It just kind of depends. I mean, you really just want to saturate that plant. I put it in a sprayer, backpack spray, however you want to just get it on there. So for my harsher ones, I less concentrate it. For like my woody ones, for my ones that are softer, I do what the instructions say.
Do you use both simultaneously?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I would throw this down first and then do this. But just because you have to water this in, you don't want to water this off. Kind of thing. If you have those waxy leaves too, something here is if you notice you spray this on, it just falls off the weed. Spreader sticker helps it stay, helps it stick to the plant, so that way that poison can get in there and kill it. Okay, so just something to consider for your waxy leaves or any leaves. But sometimes they'll just slough it off because they adapted and they learned to get rid of the killers. Like that.
Like horehound, you know, it has that really rigid weed. This makes it adhere into that, so the plant absorbs it. It's all about the plant absorbing it through the leaves. That makes it go down into the roots and kills it off.
If you have weeds coming up your yuccas or things, if you can find a piece of cardboard or something to place to then spray your weeds without your yucca, you can do that. If there's no way to separate it out, you cannot use this product. Okay? And you cannot use it on like aspen suckers, locust suckers. If you do it on suckers, it will kill the main tree as well. Okay? Just gotta keep cutting those off. I know there's a specific sucker killer. I think it's called sucker punch. If you don't sell it, because it is crazy expensive. But you can find it online if you do it that way. If you have aspens that are a problem. Okay? That's weeds. Kind of a fast one on weeds. Anything else? Otherwise, I think we'll end it. We'll still be up here to answer questions, but aspens getting more.
I got one about drench.
Okay.
And so if you could help me resolve, because I think it says a foot or two away from the trunk. It wasn't like out on the edge of the, yes?
Yeah.
And so, and the last
kind of
time I
intuitive.
came, it was like, no, just go ahead and put directly on the trunk.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, I don't know.
The tree and shrub drench. This is an insecticide for those trees you can't spray and for scale, borers, things that get into the tree. This is the only one that's counterintuitive. You mix it in water, bucket of water, and you do pour it right on your trunk base. Most of the things you're going to put on the trunk line, things like that, where the cedar roots are. This goes up through the actual trunk itself, the cambium layer.
You put it where that crown, where the tree enters the soil. That's what I like.
Right on the trunk. So I like these for my evergreens, ponderosas, your pinions that you cannot spray and get to. This once a year product. I do it more in the springtime. You can do it now. It gets new growth, old growth. This is like my #1 seller because paying for a sprayer or a guy to come in is just through your whole forest is a lot. This will help save you time.
So this is systemic, so the tree absorbs it and it moves up through the tree. So if insects like scale or bark beetle, anything under the trunk, the bark of the tree, it kills it off. So this is tree and shrub drench.
Yes.
Great for bark beetles, great for pinion scale.
Anything that eats on your
Some
tree.
borers.
All right, we're gonna end it here, so y'all get Nancy, and then we'll see your questions. So thank you guys, appreciate it.